But how long into your journey when you started working out before you competed in a show? How long was that process?
Like lifting weights before I competed, not long enough. I wish I could turn back time and find a coach that the coach I have now is not the same one that I had in 2017. If I was a coach and I had my little tiny self come up and say I want to do a show, I'd have been like, we're gonna take a whole year, maybe even two, to build first, because I I was only lifting. So like when I had lost the 20 pounds from college, that was in like 2015, early 2015. So I didn't start lifting until mid 2015, and I had my first show in mid 2017. So that's a 2 year gap. However, although I started lifting, it wasn't like I knew what I was doing. I was like, okay, this machine, how do I do it? And I guess I'll do leg day today. It wasn't as structured. It wasn't as like muscle mind connection and proper form and progressive overload. And it wasn't as detailed. So it was like, okay, I don't know. Like, I didn't have enough muscle mass. So it was kind of frustrating. So I literally, if I had to say, I had like a full, like maybe like 6 months of like, I think I'm understanding this before I stepped on stage. So if anyone out there is trying to step on stage and you're like, oh, I lost weight, I've been lifting for like 6 months to a year, I want to step on stage, give yourself time, especially as a natural female. You're gonna need a lot of time. You're gonna need a controlled amount of food and a caloric surplus. You're gonna need a lot of foundation before you start this journey, because in a prep you're going to lose muscle mass. Like, you're going to lose a little bit. You're going to try your best to avoid losing some, but you're going to lose some. So if you don't have a lot to begin with, you're literally losing the muscle, the little teeny tiny muscle that you had. So I didn't have the foundation. I didn't know nothing about the sport. Like, I just thought, like, as long as I look good in a bikini, it's fine. And I placed well. I placed second in novice and third in open. I got a little medal, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. So if there's one thing, it's just like, I wish I would have had more time. But then at the same time, I have to understand that that was a journey of mine. And now I've learned from that, so I can help other people understand that it's not just about weight loss. It's about, you need to have that foundation of muscle. And if you've been lifting for only a year, I say give it another year, maybe even two.
Unless you're one of those genetic freaks that I absolutely hate. That, I mean, I had one of them on my show where I was like, okay, there's no way. Like, I didn't like say anything, but I was like, okay. She's like, oh yeah, and I do all these natural competitions, and I was like, okay, really? And then she's like, oh, I get that all the time just because of the way I look. But she had a photo right next to her. She was prepared when she was like 10 years old, and she showed it to me, and she had like an 8 pack, and I was like, okay, this is. I was like, okay, fine. I guess it's all natural, but yeah, I always gotta point that out, that there's probably like one or two out of like every couple thousand people that are just naturally inclined. Where, I mean, they can go to the gym and work out for a couple of months, and then they can just go walk on stage, and if they know they're posing, yeah, they're fine. And I hate those people with an absolute passion. But yeah, for the vast majority, yeah, what you said is absolutely true. And I also love to ask, because one of the training techniques that a lot of people swear by when they come on the show, and I wasn't even really aware of it until I started this podcast, because I was kind of like where you were when you started, where I just work out. I do, if I want to do legs today, I'll do legs. If I want to do arms, I mean, I'm a little bit more where I have a little bit planned out, but a little bit more free flowing. But time under tension is something that a lot of people swear by. Do you do a lot of time under tension in your training?
Yes, I try to have a good amount of time under tension, meaning like when I'm lowering down a movement or lifting, I'm like basically just trying to have that muscle work the whole time. I don't really want it to rest unless I'm resting between sets. So if I'm doing like a lateral shoulder raise, I'm gonna stop before it hits my sides, because I don't want my muscles to relax. So I do utilize a lot of that. And ever since I started doing that, which is probably like the last like year and a half, I've noticed a lot of improvement. Like, I don't think I'm genetically gifted, but that was like one of the first times where I actually started to notice change in a shorter time, when I started to actually concentrate, control, don't swing it, and just keep tension on that muscle, like, and just let it burn instead of it just being like, okay, break, okay, do it again, and then break. It's like, no, just, yeah. I swear by time under tension for sure. I've seen a lot of good improvements in myself.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I've been trying it too, and yeah, it really does work. So anyone who's, thinking about that, definitely look it up and just see what it is and really, really practice it because I think it really does provide great results. But one of the things that I always say is that if you were to poll the general public, I mean, 95% of the general public would not be able to get into the shape that is required before you go onto a prep. Because, like you said, you need to have a really good foundation before you go on prep. But once you go on prep, I mean, everything is just so scientific where, I mean, you got to eat the right amount of food at the right amount of times. Everything's got to be prepared. You got to get all of your workouts in. I mean, there are no excuses. What was that lifestyle change like for you? Because for so many people, it's just a struggle the first time because everything is just so scientific and so, I mean, you have to get everything done. What was that adjustment like for you?
It was very hard because I didn't know nothing about macros and nutrition. I just knew like nothing really. So it was a huge adjustment for me. And especially I have like a very big appetite. I know a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I can eat a lot. It's like, no, I can literally out eat you any day of the week. So it was very difficult where it's like I'm hungry but I can't eat. Um, and then also I liked making foods, like fun foods, like okay, lasagna or making some Italian style chicken with rice and beans or something like that. But then it started to become very like structured, which I wasn't used to, like that discipline or structure or focus. So it was a big change. And it was a lot of trial and error as well, like overthinking, stressing out about it. But then you just have to learn to plan ahead. You have to learn time management. If you fail to plan, then plan to fail kind of thing. Like you learn your lesson quick if you're like, oh, I'll just log it I'll log my food as I go throughout my day. It's like that never works. Usually doesn't work. um, so it changed me and my lifestyle of just like planning ahead. Whereas I used to just eat, like you're hungry, you eat, it's fine. But this one was like, okay, I'm hungry, but we gotta wait another 2 hours to eat something. So it was a big adjustment, that's for sure.